Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the ninth and extremely delayed episode of Satellite Gaming's Satellcast. We have a very interesting show for you tonight, something completely different. There is nobody else but Mr. Matthew.
How y'all doing?
Today. He is going to be the devil's advocate as usual, I imagine, but actually we tend to agree on some things, believe it or not. So it's going to be interesting with just the two of us and our dynamic here. And we're going to give you guys a few different topics and kind of check this version of the show and see how everyone kind of feels about it until we get a full cast going. Today we're going to end up talking about Halo 4, surprise. The dubbed Sony Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
We're going to do a little bit of GTA 5 wants, needs, speculation, and then if we have time, some Doom 3 BFG release information and kind of my opinion there, mainly on that anyway. But anyway, let's go ahead and get it started with the 360 blockbuster game of potential game of the year, Halo 4. What is there to say that you guys don't already know? Chief is back, blah blah blah. Basically, what I'm wanting to delve into Matt with is this game going to be more fun to play? Is like we've had this discussion before about Halo 2. Is it going to be the Halo 2 or the Modern Warfare 2 of our generation? You know, or is Halo 4 going to flop hard? I mean, we all kind of know. As a viewer, you guys know Matt's opinion on Halo 4 in general, and maybe what 343 is kind of going to do, or what he thinks is going to do, but
or not do,
for that matter. And that might be worse. I'm just wondering what he thinks about maybe the multiplayer aspect, just from this perspective, with the DMR and the battle rifle being there, as well as the specializations and so on and so forth. So I don't know, Matt. Why don't you kind of give me a little bit of a thought?
So. I don't know if I've said this before in the other cast or not, but 343 is trying to please everybody. And when you try to please everybody, you're bound to fail. It's just going to happen. You're giving them everything. It's going to be incredibly difficult to balance, and something I'm not sure that this team is going to be able to do. I mean, no game has really been truly balanced. I know a lot of people say StarCraft is the most balanced game out there, but even then there are some things that it doesn't quite perfectly do. I mean, there's still patches being released for the game and stuff. I mean, so how are they going to balance this first-person shooter? And I don't think they're going to be able to. It's going to be very arcadey in a sense that there's going to be a lot of overpowered weapons just about everywhere.
Yeah. I can almost see that. I guess the question then I have would be, how can you balance the game without taking away 90% of your weapons or making everybody use the exact same one? That's the only true form of balance, right?
Right. I don't think you really can in this. I mean, it's never been done before in a multiplayer shooter. I mean, they're effectively shifting this to more, I want to say with like COD style, but there's no loadouts. So imagine having every gun that COD has at your disposal straight from the get-go. I mean, you'll have to fight other people for it, obviously, but it's kind of mixing the two, which I guess could be exciting, but don't expect this to have serious competitive multiplayer following, I guess. They don't expect
that's painfully disappointing to hear, because I'm coming from our MLG, backgrounds are more or less, or our opinion, sitting there in MLG, watching competitive Halo was actually pretty entertaining. I mean, the BR fights were pretty pro. It's not, that one clutch shot that you'd always see, that always gets your adrenaline going, and that's very disappointing to know. And that's actually the thing. I was just on Twitter earlier. Sundance, the CEO for MLG Gaming, or Major League Gaming, sorry, he basically just came out and practically made COD a trending topic. It still is, and he was asking Halo or COD for the circuit. Please share and retweet. It's very interesting to see that, because 7 years ago this wouldn't have been an issue. Everyone would have been like, "What?"
Right.
Halo, right?
And the one thing, it's just there's such a stark comparison between Bungie, which finally tuned their Reach. I think Reach is probably one of the more balanced shooters out there. One of the best probably the most balanced I've experienced. There's maybe a better one out there. If you know of it, go ahead.
Okay, don't even venture into that, because you're just going to get whiny people that are like, "Oh my god, the best balanced game was blah blah blah."
Well,
there's no way
for
to
shooters.
Please. No, shooter people.
If you think there's one out there, you can go ahead and fire at me, and I'll fire at you back.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you're going to get a lot of, I think, a lot of annoying things there. Personally, my personal feeling is I actually think this is going to be pretty balanced, because my term in balance is basically as long as we have the same weapon, it's balanced. And I get you're always going to have CQC weapons as opposed to long-range weapons. And to me, as long as the guy with the CQC weapon 99% of the time dies when I have the long-range weapon and I'm at long range, it makes sense, and vice versa. So that's what I'm going to qualify as balanced. I actually think this game is going to be superbly balanced, although I'm sure I'm still going to bitch and whine about something dumb. But looking at it now and trying to be a complete honest perspective, I think this game is going to be superbly balanced. The BR and DMR battles are going to be really interesting to me. I haven't watched any video. I don't know if the DMR still has Bloom. If it doesn't have Bloom, and the BR is still set at hit scan, I really don't even see the difference between the weapons.
Well,
provided the DMR is not on hit scan as well.
I don't say if the DMR doesn't go hit scan, then they're exactly the same thing, except for there's ones that have hit scan, which I think gives an advantage. So
well, but the thing is, yeah, I guess because the battle rifle, if it's not on hit scan, I forgot the battle rifle that's how long it's been since Halo 2. Is it's 3 shots? Yeah,
so
it's a burst.
Yeah.
In Halo 3, but so I think the game's actually going to be superbly balanced. I just think a lot of people are going to hate on it because there are a lot of weapons. Do not get me wrong. There are a
lot of weapons, and I think there's going to be a lot of gimmicks they're going to put into the game too. I mean, back in Halo 2, you had overshield and camo. Those were power-ups. And the super jump, I call it a power up. But then Halo 3 started. I felt they kind of got a little gimmicky with all the pickups, and then Reach. I don't want to say they took it further. They did drop a couple of weapons and things, but they added all the armor abilities. I think it's become a bit more arcadey. You just can't rely on your rifle skills anymore, which I guess isn't a bad thing. It adds a little bit more strategy to it, but it also takes away from the raw skill you have with your trigger, I guess, your weapon. The hardest thing I feel is going to happen is there's all these weapons. There's no way each one's going to be viable. I mean, you have your mid-long and your short, your CQC.
Well,
and
okay, yeah.
There's going to be weapons in between. I mean, you're going to get into the point where there's going to be a sentinel beam or something, in Halo 4, and nobody's
go back to golden showers, kid.
Exactly. That weapon is garbage. Although I thought it was pretty funny to use.
Funny to use.
The brute shot, not a lot of people used it. I felt it was okay.
It was a little underrated.
The dual needlers, that was the only way to use them, because if you had one, it was just asking to get your ass spanked. So I don't feel like every weapon's going to be viable.
Okay, I completely understand that. I completely agree with you, but to say that, to use that as the game is not going to be balanced is a little much.
Well, I mean, it's not just that,
in every game. That's like, you're going to always have soldiers, like, you're always going to have units. And RTSs, you're always going to have guns in games that are always, It's just, and that's just the way it works. And you know what? You can almost blame marketing for stuff like that. If hypothetically they, still kept the DMR and the BR in the game, and then really just heavily marketed some other gun, I think everyone would be like, "Oh my God, let's use that and only that." I think marketing plays a huge part.
I think the casual fan would do that, but I think the pros are smart enough to read into that.
I hope so.
I mean, I don't think there's any hope. I mean, there's people that pull these ridiculous strategies out that don't seem like they should work, but they really do, and they have the numbers behind it. So, I guess it'll be fun for arcade, where balance doesn't really matter. But in the competitive arena, there's going to be a lot of changes that need to be made. I think MLG has its work cut out for it, and trying to change Halo 4, they should probably just develop their own Halo 5.
I see, and I don't like that, because the game is going to come out somewhat balanced. They bitched about Reach. Everyone was like, Reach is the most imbalanced game ever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry, I know, if there are any MLG fans out there, I don't generally mean you, but the majority of pros I see are always blaming a game's balance. And I thought, like Matt, Reach was one of the most balanced games that we've had. Everybody bitched about Bloom. Use the pistol. I don't care. It's just, I feel like no matter what you give them, they're going to say this is not balanced, and that's just frustrating to hear. But yeah, I mean, I somewhat agree with you. Let's see. I guess we can move into our next topic. I just to wrap up Halo 4. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty balanced, and I like adding the whole gimmicks. It reminds me almost of a larger scale Unreal Tournament. I can't remember the Unreal game, like it was like Unreal 3 or something like that, and you had like objectives. It was a pretty big maps and stuff like that, and it was all. I think the more gimmicks you have, you add more strategy, which don't take game developers, please ignore everything I just said there.
Yeah.
But in a way, I think it adds like more strategy for your objective-based game types. I think you can plan a game around that.
Yeah, there's objectives, I guess, to think about too when it comes to pro gaming, but I still feel that I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's nearly impossible given what 343 is trying to do. I mean, they're basically trying to copy what Bungie did, and Bungie, while releasing a very balanced game, they weren't able to achieve it completely.
No, and I think a big part of that is just God, without dumbing down the game to literally, a clone of everyone else, it's impossible to do.
Yeah, in a sense, I mean.
But all right, let's go ahead and move on. We're going to go ahead and move on to Super Sony Smash Brothers Mega Awesome
Title of Death.
Title of Death. No.
By
Sony
Sony,
All-Stars
not Nintendo.
Brawler here. Let's go ahead and get into that. Gameplay, that 2-minute trailer, 3-minute trailer, 2-minute trailer got released, oh god, a few days ago. Literally a clone of Super Smash Brothers with Sony characters. Seriously, Matt, what do you think?
Well, what can I better say than what you just said right there? Sony Smash Brothers, the game, Nintendo's game released on PlayStation. I mean, I want to talk about the trailer first. When I first saw it, I didn't quite know what it was. There's the foreign symbols on the keyboard, and I've explained this to Curtis already. But for you guys that haven't seen the commercials or maybe don't know about it, well, here's a spoiler for you. It's about Sony Smash Brothers. I didn't infer this, or I saw some person on IGN, so if you're listening, anonymous IGN commenter, kudos to you for being so clever. They pointed out that the symbols were from Ratchet and Clank, and that it was Nathan Drake's Jeep from Uncharted, right?
Yeah.
So, pretty obvious what was going on there with that game getting all the hype that would be released. So, yeah. So I guess that's where the differences stop between these two games, because I just watched a gameplay video. Seriously? I mean, I imagine that the 4 buttons or whatever your funny Sony controllers use are probably almost the same map. X probably to punch, square to kick or something, and then you can roll the stick to get stronger attacks and smash attacks. But they're probably called like Sony attacks because we can't copy exactly everything Nintendo says. So I imagine there's Final Smash in there too somehow or some way that floats around. The game, the stages, and everything just feels so similar. I mean, it's probably the greatest thing ever if you're a Sony fan because you finally get the Nintendo exclusive on your console. So
True. Yeah, definitely. I never even thought about that.
I mean, does the PS3 still only has? This is a silly question it seems to ask, but the PS3 still has only 2 ports, right? Controller ports.
Well, it's got USB ports and it can plug in 4. Whatever, it's wireless.
All right. Well, I guess they lose the greatest draw Nintendo had, which was quick play in a sense.
The only thing I guess I don't know if I can really criticize. I don't agree with their directly coming out and cloning, but I mean that's a big hats off to Nintendo there. So anyone from Nintendo, if you're listening, obviously you did something right, as if you didn't know that already.
They say the greatest form of flattery is imitation.
Right,
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
So hats off to Nintendo for coming up with that. Now Sony, I guess if you're just going to clone it, just clone it right. I don't have a PS3 anymore, so I'm probably never going to play this game. But looking at it from the trailers and from what everybody else has had to see, it's not fair to say this game, it's not an unfair thing to be like, this game might actually be somewhat good. I mean, why not? If you're doing the same exact thing, why couldn't it be good? Everybody loves Smash Brothers. I mean,
right.
Why not? So it's not unfair to say this game's going to be somewhat good, but is a little unfair is to hold it up to that expectation, I think.
What? What do you mean?
Because what I'm thinking is, this is Sony characters.
Right.
How many Sony characters are really all that arcadey?
Well, I mean, you don't have to get arcadey with them, I think. I mean, I guess they pulled enough together. But I mean, they put Snake in Super Smash Brothers.
Very good point. But I mean, at the same time, kind of mediocre.
The character, or just like putting him in there?
Kind of putting him in. It kind of seemed like just
like a cash in.
One of these things does not fit.
Okay, yeah, I kind of feel that, but I mean, and this is where I would say that Sony's the thing they got going against them is that with Nintendo they had all these the beloved characters going together, and it worked well because these were, I don't want to say they were kids mascots, but it's kind of like a kid's game in the way the violence is done. It's a very cartoon violence.
Very much so.
So I don't want to say that Mortal Kombat, or it would have to go Mortal Kombat style to really draw in, to appeal to Sony's fan base. But I think it'd be pretty funny to see, somebody like rip off Parappa's head and just have him like squirting blood everywhere. Because I feel like if Microsoft does something like that and they put Marcus Phoenix in there, I think they have no choice but to make it like the bloodiest game ever. Which would be pretty awesome, I have to say. It'd be neat, but I mean, they'd have to pull off a pretty good cast. They'd have to cash in, or go to some third-party developers pretty hard. I mean, I think we've already talked about what Microsoft's Super Smash Brothers might have been in a previous one. So
yeah, we did. It was basically Marcus versus Master Chief Battle Royale. Personally, if it would be a buy, if I had a PS3, would it be a day one buy? Nah, I don't know. But I think what's really cool, and I'm sorry, I was stuttering trying to think about this. I couldn't remember the system's name. The Vita. The Vita is how they're kind of coupling that. I mean, what do you think about that? The whole Vita coupling, or they're basically coupling any pre-orders, I think it is. If you pre-order, the Sony Smash Brothers Brawler, you'll get the Vita copy as well, and they have cross-platform play. So what do you kind of think about that?
Well, I think it seems to be like a quick cash-in a sense that you have to bundle your Vita games or something, I guess you could say, with this to try and get them to sell. I mean, copying Sony, I guess, forever, or I'm sorry, having Sony copy Nintendo forever just seems to have not really worked out for them so well. So bundling the DS games or whatever to push, I guess it's a good marketing move, but it says worlds about your confidence in your handheld.
I won't disagree with that. I think one of the hardest things for Sony to do is sell their Vita right now, so I'm not blaming them at all. Is that enough to make, this might be a long shot, but is that enough to make anyone go buy a Vita?
Maybe a couple people, but I doubt it.
Not a big number?
Not a very significant number. Not a noticeable number, anyway.
Right.
Well, yeah, not a noticeable number. Maybe some people with disposable income will, but most gamers, I don't see it happen. So.
Well, okay, so you guys kind of got our thoughts on that, more or less. We'll go ahead and move this right along to our next topic, which is kind of a sore topic for the both of us, or for me. GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm not really sure what I think about Grand Theft Auto 5. I can tell you what I want from it, and that's a better fucking aiming system. I'll tell you that right now. And forgive the language. I know it's pretty blatant, but that is what ruined Grand Theft Auto 4 for me.
Grand Theft Auto 4, the biggest thing I think had going against it was, well, I don't know if it was maybe the long story that got pretty dull at times, or the control system. And at times because me and Curtis have tried this mission online repetitively, like just so many times, and we've come up short because, well, the AI is either unpredictable and doesn't spawn where we hoped it would, or we shoot guys or in the head, or at least we thought we did, and they don't go down. And really, I think the terrible cover system, it promises you cover, but then it's not really. So, yeah. New controls. Come on, man.
Yeah, or the whole not sticking to a dead body thing would be lovely. And I know, Rockstar, your little excuse about, well, people like to play with the dead bodies. I don't care. Have a setting for it. Or, I don't know, a better aiming system that would be absolutely fine. That would work, too. So, it's just, that's the biggest bothersome thing in the world. Other than that, Grand Theft Auto 4, for the most part, the story I never did finish. I quit after, about, I think it was like the halfway point, is what you said?
I would say it's a little bit before the halfway point. But
yeah, I mean, I played a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's
after you start going through a lot of, I felt it was
I felt it was like, go here, do there.
Yeah, it was, in a sense. Go here, shoot this guy, pick up item, go take it back to the safe house. Or go pick up person, go kill people in a group, and then go back, drop them off, And, I mean, that's fine for a while if the story is good behind it. And there's, like, one of the more fun missions, I thought, was a bank heist one, for those of you that have played it. I mean, that was more, you go pick up people, but you can really get the tension going. Like, you hear them, the voice, they did a really good job with the voices in that game, and they got really excited right until you hit to the bank. And then there was a cutscene in there, on those of you who played knows what happens, and the escape was pretty great as well. I mean, there was a lot of urgency, the atmosphere was really well done, and then the escape was really well done too. So I feel that there were a lot of dull missions, and then there was a really good mission in between.
Okay, yeah.
That kind of kept it going. But, I mean, do we really need all those dull missions? Especially the ones that, just seem there to fill out the story arc just a little bit. I mean, that couldn't have been explaining some backstory or a cutscene or something. I mean,
right.
It was unnecessarily long at times. And if you're going to make it that long, at least give me more exciting missions. I mean, I know you have to have the lows to appreciate the highs, but don't give me the same repetitive low. Give me a different one or something. I mean, something unique would be nice.
Right.
Which I felt they kind of did.
Some of them were really good.
Bit, but, I mean, yeah, there was quite a few good missions in there. And I think the atmosphere was really what made those missions so good. But when you have a bad control scheme that makes you remember that you're in the game and that it's very frustrating when you're heading this mission and you, I don't want to say die, or you get hit by something, or it's just taking way too long because you can't figure out how to maneuver around this cover or something. So it kind of breaks the joy. Buzzkill. There we go.
Buzzkill. There we go. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Grand Theft Auto 4 had the potential to be that 10 out of 10 a lot of places gave it. To me, the gameplay mechanics and the dull story, and it wasn't always dull either, but the gameplay mechanics pretty much remained all the same. And that aiming system, to me, they knocked it down a full point. I would go 9. I mean, you could give it an 8.5, and I would be all right with it. But it definitely got way. Is that what was that?
I think I might have given it an 8.5. I mean, it seems unfair, but I think a 9 is too much.
Okay.
Just
with as much as that game had in it at the time,
it was really deep.
Less than a 9, even with the gameplay was playable. It wasn't terrible.
That's true. I mean, it felt game-breaking at times, and I think that's why I couldn't give it a 9. I mean, 9's a pretty good score, but you have something that's breaking your game in there, your buzz. So, I mean, if it didn't do it at all, I would probably give it a 9, and maybe even a 9.5, but it was so frustrating.
Right.
And I forgot about this. The driving was not well done.
No, not really. The driving gameplay was, it wasn't terrible all the time.
I mean, you had to get used to it, and after you got used to it, it was acceptable. But even then, it feels really bad.
Yeah, and I don't know what they could have done to really change that up. To be
honest, I don't know if they tried to make it more realistic or something. I think
was it too simulated for the arcadey feel that we're used to?
It could be. But, you can't make it really arcadey, I guess, but you can still, you don't have to simulate everything, especially, these cars run down street lamps like nothing.
That is true.
There's some arcade element in there. You can't push realism when the whole environment's, you can run over trees or you can't really run over trees. You fly off the windshield when you do that, but.
Right, yeah. But none. I mean, some of the things that you could basically get away with in that game were a little outrageous, which I guess is the point, and that's fine. But you need to draw your line.
In its own right. I mean, driving on the sidewalk is something you would get pulled over for in real life, but in GTA 4 that's like a staple. So
yeah, well, yeah, it's because the fucking driving on the road is so bad.
Well, yeah, 'cause there's just cars everywhere. I mean, there's no cars on the sidewalk, so there's less stopping you have to do, right? Right, guys?
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we'll end up wrapping this up. This will be the last thing we talk about. I just want to state a few things before we kind of give it a solid ending here. If anyone out there that is listening, and the 8th episode absolutely exploded in views, and I'm not exactly sure why. I did, from what the comments, there was 1 or 2 comments on there. I really don't remember off the top of my head. Some of them said it was actually pretty interesting stuff. If you guys have a topic suggestion you want to see us bitch about or just talk about,
see Curtis talk about me bitch about.
Yeah, there we go. Because I'm somewhat nice, and Matt is apparently the devil's child.
Yeah.
So, but if there is anything you guys want to see talked about, go for it.
The Christmas season. This is the prime time for games. So
and it's not.
I know you fuckers have opinions.
And we can delve into anything technology if you all were thinking about that, but it's just opinion oriented there. Basically, what I'm wondering is if there is something that you want us to talk about, please. I know there are 800 views on that last video. One of you can suggest something, and I know you all have an opinion. So, I mean, whether if it agrees, feel free to say it. I'm not asking you to do it all the time, but every now and then it would be astounding. It would be great to let us know that we're doing something you like, and even if we aren't doing something you like, just tell us. We would love feedback.
And if you're too shy to post on YouTube because the peoples are mean there, you can send us a message.
Yes, absolutely. Get out our Twitter.
Get out Twitter.
You can go ahead and send us a private message on satellitegaminginc@gmail.com. Go ahead and by all means let your voice be heard. And if you want to be a guest on the show, feel free to send me a message and we'll get in contact and we'll see if it's going to work out. We would love to have you guys. We would love to have different opinions, varying opinions. It really helps out and it's fun to listen to. And
especially if you're a PlayStation person.
PC and PS3 gamers, we are reaching for you. We are reaching for you hardcore. We definitely need your guys' opinions. Definitely get in contact with us. Moving right along on kind of that same note, hopefully I think we're going to have Kale back this next week, and Michael should be back as well. So that kind of wraps that up. Now I want to move on to maybe next time's topics for you guys, and we haven't really discussed them too in depth yet. But what I'm wondering is, would anyone out there be interested in a Halo 4 special? Basically, and I'm sure, and I understand if not, because I absolutely understand that every gaming thing on the planet is going to be all over Halo 4, but we are primarily 360 gamers and have been here since the beginning. I mean, we all remember playing Nintendo stuff. We're pretty well-rounded, okay? So we can give honest opinions. Just look at Matt's previous 8 podcasts for you, 7 podcasts for you. But if there's any particular thing you all are interested in, definitely give us a shout-out. Share this. Thank you for watching. I don't remember our subscriber count right now. I think it's $1.50, $1.53. Thank you guys. Thank each and every one of you out there. 143 subscribers. Thank all of you for listening and at least taking the time to click the link. We understand the shows have been pretty long, so let us know what you think about the length of this one, which is coming in on just about 30 minutes, give or take the talk in silence. So go ahead and send us a message. Like us on Facebook. Talk to us on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube and share with your friends. Again, thank you guys very, very much, and we will definitely see you next week.